from my novel, Resurrecting Tobias. I once witnessed a stoning. I was in Iran covering a political story and had just left the Shah's palace. On my way to the hotel, I noticed a crowd forming in the public square. A woman, dressed in traditional Islamic dress, was buried to her shoulders, and 10 men stood about 20 feet away throwing stones at her. The stones were about the size of a football, or maybe slightly smaller, all with sharp edges. The woman had several cuts on her face by the time I arrived, and the pain was obvious, but she did not cry out. Stone after stone hit her head, and cuts increased, and as time passed, her skull appeared, and then brain matter. And her blood flowed down to the dust, turning it red under the scorching sun. Only an army could have saved her, certainly not a lone outsider to that country and culture, who would only have become a second victim. Any attempt to do so by me would have been suicide. Hundreds watched the spectacle as though it were entertainment, many nibbling on fruits, some drinking from tiny porcelain cups, sustaining their bodies with fluids as the young woman's fluids mixed with the dirt and her life ebbed. That shit will stay with you once you see it. That shit will alter the course of your life and put you on a path you never envisioned when you were a youngster playing kick the can. It did for me, and my writings today reflect those moments when mankind's brutality overshadows all advancements made in the past 200,000 years. I am a poet trapped in a prose writer's body. I am the long-haired, unwashed, higher than a seagull bong token coffee shop muse. Staring out over the audience, bongos playing in the background, as I read my latest series of beatnik-inspired tripe. I am a windmill-tilting, self-righteous son of a bitch, perched precariously on a soapbox hoping the wind does not topple me. And I am the pimple on your ass that no salve can make better. Toss $1 in my jar and I'll expound on the latest political bullshit or tell you the secret of life. But really, man, it all boils down to love, baby, love. And yes, it's free, and yes, it's easy. And with it comes that peaceful, easy feeling, flying with the eagles overhead. I'm the piano man in verse. No accompaniment necessary, and applause is not expected. My parents never saw it coming. How could they? They gave me a damn fine childhood, and really, my friends, thank God they are both dead now, so they don't have to witness the results. Toby, you have to go to college. Take business courses and learn how to make money. It's the only way to make it in this world. So saith my father when I was 16, and off I went to the university like a good boy, majoring in marketing, just to keep the old man happy. Switching to journalism when I couldn't take the insanity of statistics any longer, and then off into the cruel world to conquer and pillage. Fast forward a few decades, and there I sat in Fred's Java Jive in Portland, Oregon, preparing to read to the masses, all 15 of them, and hoping to make enough tips to buy me a pack of smokes. How do you like them beans, Dad? I know where my folks were coming from. They were children of the Great Depression, and those lessons will infiltrate your soul. Dad left high school his sophomore year and rode the rails in search of scut work so he could send money back to his folks. A job was sacred to him, and the memory of eating fried rats in the rail yards, hoping the yard bull wouldn't crack his skull with a 2x4, well, like I said, lessons for a lifetime. So he wanted the best for his son, and the best equated to a great paying job, a home, family, and 2 cars in the proverbial garage. Shit, man, I just hitchhiked to the Java Jive, and the last car I owned was a Geo Tracker with 250,000 miles on it. It broke down outside of Topeka and is now somebody's flower pot out behind the barn. Still, I think my dad would approve of the message I delivered nightly. It might be silent approval, but he would approve nonetheless, because, hey, he's the one who filled my head with this shit, the compassion and empathy and looking out for the little guy. Words preached at the dinner table and modeled 1,000 times during my childhood. I am a storyteller. I just wrote this, so you're going to have to bear with me while I read it. It's called The Storytellers in My Life. My earliest storytelling memories are of my dad and Uncle Jim sitting on the front porch, each drinking a beer, passing the time telling tales, as men often do. Jim would talk about the dredging jobs he had been on in the wilds of Alaska, while Dad would talk about pubs in Ireland during the war, or street fights growing up in East St. Louis. I felt grown up during those sessions by virtue of being allowed to stay and listen, me just being a little kid of 6 or 7, warm and protected by the men in my life, smiling and laughing when they would say something funny, laughing as the men did. It occurs to me now that when those stories were being told, this being maybe 1955 or so, both men had traveled considerably by then, both men hailing from Iowa, both men in Europe during World War II, Jim working in Alaska after that, some serious miles before I even got the training wheels off my trike. Dad loved to drive, his favorite times, I believe, when he would drive me and Mom on the yearly vacation, taking back roads down to Seaside, Oregon, or similar blacktop ribbons north to Canada, or back to Iowa to see family, long stretches of wheels humming, Mom often falling asleep, Dad using that time to talk about random matters, his son in rapt attention, soaking up the exquisite sharing of father to son. Most of what I know about family history was learned during those drives, after darkness had fallen or headlights illuminating small paths of roadway, the nighttime embracing our car. Storytelling in its finest, my friends, a fine tradition practiced by every nationality before nations even existed, the tribes and nomads, hunters and gatherers, telling history in the shape of a story. Perhaps that's where my love of storytelling comes from. Perhaps that's where my love of traveling comes from. I know not, but I do know that there's a nomad inside of me and a storyteller, and I can't think of a finer gifts for my father and Jim to give to me. I think of today's generation. Surely there is some clever title for them, like Generation X or some such fabricated label, and I wonder if they were told histories by their relatives during breaks from social media, of course, and if they are not, are we as a civilization poorer for it? But then I think, lighten up a bit, Billy boy, it's all storytelling, is it not? The Facebook and the Instagram, the graffiti and the street art, the ramblings of coffeehouse poets and the deep dissertations of the Nobel Prize winners, and the sculptors and the cave drawings, the historians and the tribal chiefs, all part of what that overused word tapestry of life. Now I'm getting warm and fuzzy, the proverbial goosebumps moving down my arms just thinking about the fact that I am part of that tradition. And that makes me feel proud. And I think just maybe I might keep on doing it. And I hope you do as well. Fahrenheit 451 will remain a fiction as long as we all do. Governments can ban until hell freezes over. But as long as storytellers tell stories, our histories will not die. Storytellers, fans, long live them. Long live the families who tell stories. Long live each and every one of you. Keep telling the stories. Keep sharing the histories. I do think it's important. Over and out from Olympia, Washington. Do me a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. What's it going to take you? 5 minutes total, please? Like, subscribe. Help me build this channel. We got good messages. We got heavy stuff to talk about. We're going to help people. Like and subscribe. Thanks. Hey, whether you know it or not, I have a Patreon page. Patreon. You can find it As we wonder on Patreon, and for as little as $3 a month, you can support this meager effort of mine to send good vibes out into the world. $3 a month, guys. $3 a month, okay? Like the cost of what? An espresso? Come on. Really? I think the message is good. I think it's important that people start feeling good about themselves. I think it's important that people start learning how to fend for themselves in a world that appears to be against them constantly. And yeah, there you go. Patreon, As We Wonder. Thanks. Over now.